First up, the leaders of South Korea and the United States have reaffirmed their commitment to keep maximum pressure and sanctions on North Korea to bring the regime back to talks. That agreement came during an hour-long phone conversation between Presidents Moon Jae-in and Donald Trump, their second in 2 days since Pyongyang's missile launch in the early hours of Wednesday. Our chief Blue House correspondent Moon Gang-yang reports.
A propaganda victory lap after launching an intercontinental ballistic missile, which for the first time puts all of mainland U.S. in its range. State TV declaring the country is now a rocket power with the state nuclear force to defend against the U.S. imperialists' nuclear blackmail. Leader Kim Jong-un shown approving the launch of a boosted version of a missile Fox News saw at a military parade in Pyongyang in April.
I think this idea of saying, that for whatever reason they would like to have a credible capability to be able to inflict pain in the United States is really where they're headed.
Worried neighbors reacted after the missile, sent on a high trajectory, landed off the coast of Japan. South Korea staged its own missile drill.
This action does not only increase tension on the Korean peninsula, but gravely endangers the international peace and security.
2 phone calls in a row since North Korea's ICBM-level test in the early hours of Wednesday. South Korean President Moon Jae-in and U.S. President Donald Trump, that is. Their second late Thursday night Korea time lasted for a whole 60 minutes, during which the two discussed the next steps to respond to the latest provocation following an initial evaluation of the North missile technology. It included ways to bring maximum pressure to bear on the rogue state. South Korean President Moon told his U.S. counterpart that while Pyongyang's latest missile launch reflects its most advanced technology so far, it still lacks critical technology that would actually make its nuclear missile weapons development complete.
President Moon Jae-in told his U.S. counterpart that although it's clear that the new missile is North Korea's most advanced so far, it still has some technical issues to settle, such as re-entry, terminal stage guidance, and warhead activation.
That's basically a rejection of the reclusive state's claim the day before that they have finally completed building the, quote, state nuclear force. Therefore, Moon added, the allies are still tasked with preventing North Korea from making any further advancements in its reckless campaign for nuclear and missile weapons and lead to dismantlement. To do so, the two leaders will continue to apply strong sanctions and pressure to bring the rogue regime to talks. The White House also made this point clear, saying the U.S. president is currently not focused on regime change in North Korea.
This administration is focused on one big thing when it comes to North Korea, and that's denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. That's our #1 priority. That's what we're focused on. Anything beyond that is not the priority at this point.
The Blue House said President Trump also reiterated his endorsement for South Korea's enhancement of deterrence and defense capabilities by acquiring cutting-edge military assets. Some expect Pyongyang to finally pause its provocative testing program since it has declared that it's finally achieved a historic cause of completing nuclear weapons, while others remain skeptical, with Mr. Trump not having ruled out the military option just yet. But when is the U.S. president's commitment to send a high-level delegation to Pyeongchang, South Korea, for the 2018 Winter Olympics set to kick off in just 70 days?
Even allies of Kim Jong-un showed concern, Russia condemning the launch. China had recently sent a high-level envoy to Pyongyang.
China is gravely concerned about and strongly opposed to North Korea's missile test.
Missile blast and nuclear test. Also, after the U.S. designated North Korea a state sponsor of terrorism. Secretary of State Tillerson says he still wants to give peace a chance.
How much more time are you willing to give the pressure campaign? As a diplomat, we keep working on it every day.
Just in the past half hour or so, we have seen new pictures released by one of the leading propaganda newspapers of North Korea purporting to show the launch last night of this missile. We have discussed it with one of our leading experts. He thinks they're the real thing. He thinks it confirms what he thinks, and that is that it's based on a missile used in July. The second stage, a stronger stage, a second stage supplying a possible stronger platform for any future use of a nuclear payload. This, as Brett mentioned, the UN Security Council is meeting in special session. The first speech given by the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, calling on all countries to cut off all ties to North Korea in the wake of this launch. Here's a bit more of what she had to say.
We have never sought war with North Korea, and still today, we do not seek it. If war does come, it will be because of continued acts of aggression like we witnessed yesterday. And if war comes, make no mistake, the North Korean regime will be utterly destroyed.
Visited Pyongyang say North Korea is ready to hold direct talks with Washington, but only on the condition that it recognize the state as a nuclear power. The Russians said they were also told that the North successfully launched its new Hwasong-15 ICBM on Wednesday.
It was an ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile, but we can confirm with senior U.S. defense officials what the South Koreans have been reporting, that North Korea launched a ballistic missile not long ago, firing it to the east. Again, we don't know how far it flew and whether it was an ICBM or not. Harris.
Well, we waited for a few minutes for this confirmation, and I know that there are a couple of things that you say.
That North Korea's nuclear program would be complete. This is obviously a worrisome time. There is a White House meeting slated.
Here we have a gentleman with us today who worked for Senator Mitch McConnell, and no doubt this will come up on Capitol Hill now, so I'm going to ask you guys to stand by and get to this. I want to talk with you, though, Jennifer, about the timing. This happened in the middle of the day for Americans, so if they're trying to get our attention or the world's attention, it's not the overnight. And you mentioned the timing. Talk to me about it.
Well, it's interesting. Often what we have noticed is that Pyongyang will fire, particularly if it's an ICBM, at about 6 a.m. local time, Korean time. That ends up being about 6 p.m. here. We're 12 hours ahead on the East Coast of the United States. Again, it's hard to get into the mind of the leader of the North Korean regime. It's not clear at this point.
And that the country had already achieved its goal of becoming a nuclear weapons state. The bilateral meeting took place on Thursday, a day after the launch.
Usually they are fired at dawn. We know that this missile went to the east, but right now the Pentagon and U.S. Pacific Command are analyzing the trajectory. We don't know if it was an ICBM.
An analyst told the BBC that Hyun's execution is a clear indication that Kim does not feel secure. Another told The Guardian that the situation as it stands looks quite worrisome. North Korea has, for the moment at least, not commented on the reports. South Korea's spy agency says Kim Jong-un has ordered the execution of around 70 senior officials since coming to power in late 2011.